We have Mark Dibben with us here today. Mark is works at the School of Business and Economics at the University of Tasmania. Are you originally from England?
I am originally from England. That's right.
Oh,
That's right.
His research engages in process thought as it's applied to management. And Mark is also the academic director of the International Process Network. So it's nice to have you here, Mark.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And we're talking to Mark today because he's one of the contributors in the book to the book For Our Common Home: The Process Relational Responses to Laudato Si. I found your chapter very fascinating. I think probably because it rang bells with me of experiences I've had. I think when you're in the work world or you're engaging in even small town politics or community politics, so many of the things that you speak of resonate. We've all had the experience of being manipulated and having knowledge withheld and not really being welcomed, I think, to a team in terms of assuming that we are all here for the common good. So I resonated with that chapter in a very personal way. I thought I would just bring up a few of the things that you said in the chapter for some comments. You talk about almost a magical conception, or basically an unrealistic conception that we tend to operate under, which says that which assumes that we have endless resources, that problems that we have can be solved by increased economic growth and by increased profits. And I assume you think that's exactly the opposite of our real situation.
That's right. I sense that all the pressures that people feel under when they're in the workplace, all of the manipulation, the exploitation, the backstabbing, the sense by which anything they tell their manager is used somehow in the future against them, comes from a wrong-minded pursuit of results, management by objectives, and the delivery, what I describe as the midwifery approach to management, with delivery, delivery, delivery. Everything's about delivering on getting things done to particular expectations of management, so that they can then go to their management and say, look what good boys we've been, and it's usually boys, look what good boys we've been. And somehow that is fulfilling to everybody and fulfilling to the people on the coalface. And oftentimes I've discovered that isn't the case. And most people who end up going to work often go to work in spite of their feeling that they're actually being unvalued, that who they are as human beings isn't really understood in the workplace, and what it means for them to be in the world and what role they want to play in growing themselves as human beings is not being paid attention to at all. So when I wrote the chapter for John on in that as a response to Laudato Si, I was really saying that what Pope Francis had spoken to in regards to the problems of consumerism and industrialization were really hitting the nail on the head in regards to some of the fundamental problems that we face. And most of those problems come from the way in which management has been applied in the modern era.
Yes. You say that management intent on having power over people means trying to invoke meaning and purpose and agency for those people and direct them to have a purpose that they would not ordinarily have.
I think the idea that seems to be still in vogue in many businesses is that management is about using people to fulfill the corporation's ends. Corporations are no longer there for our purpose. We are there for their purpose. And so the sort of management that's used is a management that's engaged in effectiveness, or rather, it should be about effectiveness. It's actually about efficiency.
Yes.
It's all about efficiency. And so if we're going to really pick up on something more than profit, getting beyond the gross domestic product argument, getting to what it really means to be a human being, and not disconnecting ourselves from nature, and not disconnecting ourselves from each other as human beings, and finding a way by which we can relate to each other truly and in some deep way, means we have to really radically change our understanding of what management is all about. Management is the only means we have at our disposal, as a dear colleague of mine, Nigel Laurie in the UK, says, it's the only means we have at our disposal for intervening in and changing the nature of things. Every other academic discipline will be able to describe in ever greater detail what's going on. But as soon as we want to decide to intervene and change, then that's about management. So an environmental scientist who sees the problem of the world, who measures all of that and can come up with the facts and the figures, who then decides it's no longer good enough just to be able to do that, but they want to actually intervene and change the environment, well, then they engage in environmental management. A doctor who speaks with a patient who has a chronic illness really has to get beyond being a doctor and administering care. Rather more, they have to engage in what's known as chronic illness management. As soon as you want to intervene and change meaningfully, anything at all, you engage in management. So our understanding of management has got to move beyond the search for profit, the search for gross domestic product. And it's got to reinvent itself to allow us as human beings to reconcile ourselves with the earth. Otherwise, the future will be even shorter than it seems at the moment.
When we talk about management, we're talking about organizing systems to accomplish things. And that implies goals, doesn't it? So everything comes back to goals, and goals come back to our fundamental values.
Well, that's absolutely right. And unfortunately, human values have become divorced from the goals of most corporations. Most corporations now are really interested in delivering a return on profit for their shareholders. It's got absolutely nothing to do with human values. The irony is, though, that if you do get a CEO who happens to speak to human values, sometimes, such as the present CEO of Procter & Gamble, when people listen to him speak about value, the share price goes up. So it isn't to say that there is a disconnect between people and shares and share values, but it is to say that it is very, very rare that human values in this day and age are reconnected to the values of corporations. Oftentimes, values of corporations are purely about making enough money so that they can provide a dividend for their shareholders, return on investment.
I liked what you said when you suggested the real endpoint is not economic growth, but genuine flourishing of human beings and the biosphere.
Absolutely, it has to be in this era. We've got to understand that management needs to be recalibrated towards just precisely those goals, instead of the goals of endless profit.
Is there any endpoint or any takeaway that you would like to leave us with today?
I think I would say this. When you are engaged in managing yourself or managing others, or indeed resisting being managed by other people, consider what the effect of your actions is going to be on the well-being of the people around you, so that you can create and enable opportunities for people and other purposeful life to flourish on this little planet.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
The book is For Our Common Home.
Mm-hmm.